Well, you've been the world traveler, and then life changes when twins come along. Or does it? Most people resign themselves to resume traveling after they're twins or potty trained or even older. Well, today we're here with some experienced twin moms who have been jet setting around the world alongside their kids. Is this for everyone? We'll find out. This is Twin Talks.
The ultrasound shows your babies to be healthy.
What? Did you say babies? You're huge. Are you having twins?
Are they natural?
Which one do you like better?
Twins, huh? My neighbor's cousin's brother's uncle's a twin.
So can they read each other's minds?
How do you tell them apart? Twins? You got a 2-for-1.
Do twins run in your family?
Double trouble. You're not having any more, are you?
At least you're not Octomom.
If you're pregnant with twins or you're an experienced twin parent, odds are you've heard it all before. Now it's time to hear from the experts. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2. Welcome to Twin Talks. Twin Talks is your weekly online on-the-go support group for new and expecting parents of twins. I'm your host, Christine Stewart Fitzgerald. We've got a great show for you today. So we are talking about twins and traveling. So first of all, though, let's say here's Sunny, our producer, and we're to tell us about how you can get involved with our show.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to Twin Talks. If you haven't already, be sure to visit our website. It's newmommymedia.com. You can subscribe to our weekly newsletter, which keeps you updated of all of our episodes, not just Twin Talks. We actually produce some other podcasts that might interest you as well. Everything is parenting focused. And another great way to stay updated is to hit that subscribe button. So whatever player you're listening to our podcast on, maybe it's Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever it is, hit subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you're looking to find a way to get even more involved in our show, you can check out our membership club. We call it Mighty Moms because you guys are all amazing, mighty moms. And that is where we chat more about the topics that we talk here we talk about on the show here. So obviously we only have so much time for the podcast, but we want that conversation to continue. So if you want to check that out, you can continue the conversation. You can connect with other moms. And that's also where we let you know about future recordings. So if you're listening to this episode and you think, I'd like to join on a future recording, that'd be really fun. You can do so. It's all through Mighty Moms. So check that out. We've got a bunch of banners and stuff on our website, and there's more information there.
All right. Well, let's get started and let's introduce everyone who is joining our conversation today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, your experience with today's topic. And I'm going to throw this over to Caroline, first of all.
Yes. Thanks so much for having me. My name's Caroline Hershey. I'm a mom of 1-year-old twins and recently founded a blog all about traveling with kids called Jet with a Set. My family lives in Manhattan and we love to travel. So when I found that I was expecting twins, was immediately determined to figure out how to make that happen, no matter what the obstacles were, whether it would be, the crazy long flights or COVID restrictions. We've kind of figured out how to make it work. So excited to talk about that today.
Okay. And we also have with us Lindsay. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Lindsay Castiglione. I'm a mother of 2 sets of twins. I have an identical boy set who are 10 years old and a boy-girl set who are 8 years old, and they're 25 months apart. So pretty close in age. I own a prenatal multiples education business called Full Hearts Collaborative. We do online expecting twins classes and breastfeeding twins. And I'm also an IBCLC, so lactation consultant. And I help a lot of moms online virtually. And we have experience with traveling since we are a Navy family. We've done a bunch of moves across the country and tons and tons of road trips home to see family in 2 different locations.
All right. Okay. And Sunny, our producer.
Yeah. So my situation is not nearly as exciting as everybody else. I'm going to learn from you guys in today's episode. So I have 4 kids total. My twin set are my youngest kids. They are identical girls and they just turned 8. We just had a birthday party for them. And so, my husband and I are kind of scared of travel now, but we really didn't do that much travel even before kids. And I don't really know why that is. I actually did a lot of traveling when I was younger with my mom and dad, but that kind of stopped. And I think it kind of stopped because it was a price thing, right? It was like, the travel that we needed to do. So we live in Southern California and the rest of our family is in the Midwest. And so if we were going to travel anywhere, it would be to go see both sides of the family, which literally live like 5 miles apart from each other in Ohio. And we learned really quickly how expensive that was and a lot of the challenges that go along with that. And so I admire you ladies for doing what you've done. Like I said, I'm going to be taking ample notes during today's conversation so I can get the courage to do what you have done. But up to this point, it's been very mild, the kind of travel we've done. Like I said, we've gone back a few times cross country to see family, but not outside of the States. And it sounds like an amazing dream. And I'm very jealous that you guys have been able to do this.
Oh, and I feel the same way. So, and introducing my travel experience as well. So I've got 3 girls, and the oldest 2 are the twins. And then I've got a singleton 3 years behind. So now my twins are 12. And, honestly, I have to say, prior to twins, I actually did quite a bit of traveling, and I lived abroad myself. I'm myself very comfortable, being in different continents and whatnot. And yeah, when the twins came along, I was just like, oh my gosh, like I couldn't think about anything besides being home and just trying to get through each day. So honestly, I think the idea of jet setting around the world with infants is amazing. And I don't know how you do it. So I am very curious about today's topic. We are here today with our twin moms who've been major travelers, and including Carolyn Hershey. So she's a twin mom who's recently been traveling around the world with very young twins. Now, does this sound like an impossible dream? Let's find out how we can just pick up and go. Carolyn, I'm going to start with you. So
okay.
Give us your backstory. I mean, honestly, why would you even consider traveling long distances or around the world with a set of infant twins? What made you take this on?
Yeah, it's a good question. And just to start off, it's definitely not for everyone. I know how crazy it sounds, especially today, but I think it kind of goes back to, I grew up traveling and it was a huge part of my childhood. And my husband also, he didn't really grow up traveling a lot, but loved travel. He traveled a lot for work, and it was always something that we did as a couple before kids. So I think just with anything, if it's something that, you're so passionate about before kids, that it's really important to, maintain it as best as you can after kids, I think, because if you completely lose something, then, I think it would just kind of take away from the fun that we had. And we figured having kids with us, for those memories and those trips would just make them even better. So I think, it sounds a little naive because you think, oh yeah, it sounds easy, but then of course doing it is a totally different story. So I think for us, especially, we had a pretty rough experience in the NICU for 4 months during COVID, and kind of just feeling so trapped and so hopeful that one day when our kids finally graduated from the NICU and they came home, that we really just wanted to almost make up, not lost time, but, just give them as many experiences possible and kind of just never put anything off and just do everything that we could, because we just felt like, it would be such a miracle for them to come home. And then how amazing would it be if we could pull off something like this? So I think that's kind of what our mindset was and our inspiration. Also, my dad was a extreme world traveler. He went to 136 countries. So I think it's really just in my blood and just something I really wanted to pass down to them.
Wow. So you said, so you grew up with this, right? So you said
yeah.
How old were you when you started traveling?
So I was actually born overseas. I was born in Hong Kong, and we moved to the US when I was 2 or 3 years old. But just every year we would travel to Asia because my dad was there for business trips, and it was just a huge passion of my family. So I definitely grew up pretty young traveling, and my mom tells me, I did it by myself with you, across the Pacific. So definitely possible.
Wow. And so you,
Yeah.
as a kid, it sounds like you had really good positive memories of, being with your parents. And so that was probably part of it.
Totally. My best memories, and even the long flights. I remember my mom used to make us all different kinds of games to do on the plane. So I feel like I got used to that pretty young. And then the jet lag, of course, I just have vivid memories of sitting with my brother in like a hotel bathroom eating cereal because my parents would kind of bribe us like, okay, if you wake up at 3 a.m, just keep to yourselves in the bathroom. So yeah, it was always fun. Those are some of my best memories.
I've never heard of that before, sitting in the bathroom, but that's a great form of bribery. So Lindsay, how about you?
So we also had quite a NICU stay with our first set of twins. And so our family wasn't able to meet them. And this was far pre-COVID though. My oldest set are 10. And we are a Navy family, so we get stationed all over the country at any given time. So we were probably, let's say, about 2 or 3 weeks out of the NICU for our very first road trip. And it was probably about a 5-hour drive. And you can imagine what our vehicle looked like. I think at the time we owned a Grand Cherokee, and I don't think there was a spare inch left between bouncy seats and nursing pillows and pumps and, just everything. And we bought a minivan like very quickly after that trip. But everywhere that we've moved, we've had family come visit us, but we also, you miss home, you want to go back. And so we've done a lot of trips back and forth and all different types of routines with them, trying to trial and error, learning what works and what doesn't. So
since both of you, your twins were in the NICU, I mean, did you have any, I don't know, either friends or family say, oh, they're so young, they're just out of the NICU, maybe say cautioning you not to take a road trip?
Yeah, people definitely thought we were crazy from that perspective, especially my twins. They were micro preemies. So of course we're always, extra careful about germs and everything like that. But we kind of thought of it like, we're not really exposing them differently than anything that we do here. We're still washing their hands, they have all their vaccines, and we're being just as careful about that stuff as we would here. And I actually, on planes, everyone has to be vaccinated and wearing masks. So I didn't really worry about that part as much. So YOLO.
Yeah. And even though this was far pre-COVID, we kind of conducted ourselves really similarly to all of the things that we do now. We kept family gatherings really to a minimum and made sure our family knew that prior. And we would stop very briefly, maybe on a rest stop, but only one of us would go in at a time. We never brought the babies into like a rest area or anything like that. So, lots of hand washing, lots of hand sanitizer, that type of thing.
Right. Oh yeah. So did your family and friends, I mean, so do they just think you're crazy, or were they encouraging you, on your endeavor?
I think it depends too. I mean, my family, you definitely can understand it a bit more just because it's, I guess, relatable to, how they were. But yeah, I think everyone thinks it's nuts just because the amount of luggage that we have. And, it's definitely a production, but I don't know. I feel like, my husband, he's a very intense personality and he's super organized, which is great because we kind of balance each other out. I'm a little bit more laid back about things. So I think everyone kind of trusted that if anyone could pull this off, it would be us, just because, everything was planned down to the minute. I think that's really important. I mean, you can't pull off a trip like this unless every detail is kind of worked out, because you really have to think about, how you're going to get from the airport. We didn't bring car seats, so that's another point. But so there's just a lot of logistics. So I think we weren't just going blind. We both have a lot of experience traveling, made sure the babies had global entry and passports pretty much as soon as they could when they got home. So yeah, I don't know. I think we just want people to support us and believe in us. And I think we proved that we could pull it off.
Wow. No, that's amazing. I got to say, I mean, when you talk about logistics, I mean, so often we think about just the logistics to get out of the house, just to go on a shopping trip, much less, a trip.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine. Yeah. When you got a planner in your family,
that's key.
Delegate. Okay. Go for it. Yeah. My husband's a lot like that. He's a planner as well. So I let him figure out like some of the details of those things.
Yeah.
When you originally started planning things and then how things came about, I mean, how was it different? Were there any sort of major surprises compared to what you planned for and what your expectations were? What did you maybe learn in the process?
I think we kind of went into it knowing that this was not going to be easy. So I think with anything you do with twins, just having that mindset of like, all right, we're just going to roll with it. We're going to see what happens. We're going to anything that could go wrong. We have everything in the diaper bag. We'll figure it out. But yeah, we kind of built up to doing a bigger trip. So we started with, road trips and, figuring out how to keep their schedule on the go, staying out more during the day. And then we did a shorter trip to Florida. Then we went to the West Coast. That was a bit longer and kind of testing how they would react to the time difference, figuring out their schedules for that. And then the bigger trip to Europe, I think we had a lot of key learnings just in terms of what we needed to bring. And honestly, it seems so obvious, but one of the biggest things was just realizing that anywhere you go in the world, like there are babies there. So anything you could need, you're going to be able to find, unless it's something super specific or a certain brand that you want. Everything from like diapers to wipes, like basic medicine, anything like that, you're going to be able to find. So once we realized that and we could just, buy all their food and milk and all that stuff, it just alleviated like an entire suitcase. So yeah, I think it's just, the more you do it, you kind of refine the process and figure out what works.
Yeah, I just became such a list maker. I mean, I would start listing out all the things that we would need to pack about a week beforehand. And I tend to overpack. So that was definitely something I struggled with, but I didn't want to be caught off guard with something that we really needed and we didn't. Although you're right, we could have probably just gone to the store and bought whatever it was. But, definitely very detailed on the list making of every little thing that we possibly could need.
Totally. And especially with like international travel, there's so many just tiny details that you need in terms of like documentation and forms and figuring out like different rules between different airlines and countries. So yeah, it definitely helps to have at least one of the two parents super attentive to those things.
Yes.
Let's look at some of the ways I think, that twin parents can really embrace this idea of travel. So I think, you have to have a certain mindset, and saying, hey, this is important. And, everyone being on the same page, right? One of the things you've been talking about right now is just the idea of like, simplicity and minimalism, right? Less is more, that you don't necessarily have to pack every single thing, to your point, Caroline, like, yeah, you're going to a place where they have babies and, oh yeah, there's baby stuff, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think beyond just all the stuff and, all that packing tips, it's really just a mindset of, hoping for the best and preparing for the worst, but not going into it in such a panic. So I know travel, especially even without kids, is just naturally stressful, right? Like your flight could be delayed, you forget something or weather, whatever could possibly go wrong. I think you need to just go into it with just a really positive attitude. And I always say this, like, whenever we're around the babies, they're super calm, they're smiling in pictures and everyone's like asking like, oh, they look so happy all the time. And I really believe that they can read our energy. And if we're calm and we're smiling, then they're totally fine. But they can tell when we're stressed and yelling and freaking out, and they start responding to that and they get upset and uncomfortable. So I feel like if you can just have that kind of calm mindset as much as possible, and then when something does come up, which it probably will, I mean, so I could go on like all the mishaps that happened to us and things happening in the airport. It's all about just how you react and just realize like, it's going to be fine. Let's just get through this moment one day at a time and move on. I think that goes for a lot of things besides travel, but you really just have to learn how to stay calm in the moment.
I think also what Caroline said about working up to a bigger trip is a great idea and a great way to look at it. So like, even if you're just doing a day trip prior to doing a longer vacation or whatever it may be, is a great idea. It's going to help you wrap your mind around it. And then you're also going to get that feeling. I don't know if you guys have experienced this as well, but as a twin mom, if I had a challenging grocery shopping trip or any sort of, library trip, and I got through it successfully, you come home at the end of the day and you're like, wow, like I'm super mom. I just did something really hard and it was successful. And so building up to it through those small trips is going to give you that kind of confidence too.
Totally.
Oh, gotcha. No, that makes sense. You kind of, it's like sort of celebrate the small things and acknowledge that, hey, this is working, here, and I can, build up to something that's larger, and, have the confidence for yourself, for your whole family that, hey, it's really not as big. It's not as daunting,
Yeah.
right?
And another thing, just having infant twins. I know you talked about how expensive traveling is, which totally does not go unheard. And I think another reason why I think we've been so ambitious to do it in this past year is that when twins are, or when any kids are under 2 years old, they're free. So you don't have to buy them a seat on the plane, which is obviously a huge savings. So yeah, and they also can't walk. So that makes it a bit easier. Like, I'm totally aware that when they're toddlers, this might not be the same conversation. But yeah, so I think just figuring out also, a lot of times people are thinking, oh, like the twins, how are the twins going to do? And I'd say, at least for mine, most of the time they're fine. The stress is really coming from me or from my husband. So it's like, why are we freaking out? What's going on? The babies are fine. Like, they don't realize that it's maybe 1 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock. They're not screaming. They don't care that their schedule is not perfect. So I think it's just realizing in the moment, like, what's the cause of your stress, and just, getting through that.
Oh no, that's a great example. That it's usually the adults that are reacting to things. It's not necessarily the kids. We think it's the kids, or maybe we become a little bit overprotective of the kids, and we think oh, they might be upset because of this, and maybe in reality it's not.
Yeah.
It's not such a big deal. Probably, I think with anyone traveling, I mean, you have to be resourceful. When you're in a new place, you may not have the regular brand of baby food, or you need like calming, bath lotion or something like that, and kind of have to just adjust to that, or be resourceful. I'm guessing, Caroline, you had a few times where you had to go out and maybe find things or to get what you needed in the middle of an airport, perhaps?
Definitely. Well, we actually forgot to pack bibs, which was pretty hilarious. So we had a layover in Amsterdam, and we just ran to a gift shop and found, little tourist bibs, which were fine. And looking back, not having bibs is not a huge deal. You could always change their clothes, but they were a pretty huge mess. And I didn't know how many extra pairs of clothes we had. And I definitely didn't want them to be soaking wet with milk. So yeah, you can usually just find something, or if they don't have bibs, maybe it's just an extra t-shirt or something like that. But yeah, in terms of the other stuff and all the toiletries, I mean, you'd be surprised, Pampers, totally universal, everywhere has them. So, able to get diapers there, wipes. And then, yeah, the food is definitely different. We give them a lot of the fruit pouches here. And we were in London, and I found they didn't really have those. They had, it was more meat. It was chicken and things that we normally wouldn't give them in a pouch, but you know what, if they're doing it here, it's fine. So just buying stuff there, and then kind of realizing that anything we're eating, they can eat for the most part. We've done, all the allergy testing, and that's been fine so far. So yeah, kind of just find something, and they just get to try new things. That's part of travel, I guess.
We actually forgot a nursing pillow, or my tandem nursing pillow, on one trip. And I know a lot of twin moms can just get by without having that pillow to nurse, but I had it just ingrained in my mind that I had to have that pillow. And I actually went on Facebook Marketplace and found one in the town that we were visiting, and was able to go pick it up in a few hours, because I was worried that, Babies R Us back then, they wouldn't necessarily have one in stock. So that worked out really well.
The power of social media. You got to love that, right?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, and I can totally relate to, the nursing pillows too, because that's for twins, because that's obviously such a very specific item. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we've all had to improvise even at home in propping things up. I think Sunny, I remember a while back we were doing a recording, and I think you needed to you had your girls with you when they were just babies, right? And we had to we were scrounging for pillows, and we propping them up, right?
Yeah, these are during recordings, I would bring my twins in, and there was a room on the side too. I think sometimes if I was going to pump or something, I may have to, pumps aren't exactly the quietest things in the world when you're recording podcasts. But yeah, I mean, any port in a storm, right? I remember, because I did too. I used the breastfeeding pillow for my twins, and I think they even have one for doubles, right? For actual twins, not single twins. I used that, and I would have been really upset had I forgot that too, Lindsay. I would have been like, okay, where can I get another one?
So yes. So I think that kind of leads, into just being flexible with okay, I'm not going to get so frustrated with the fact that I don't have my stuff and my, my regular environment. I have to admit that when my girls were really young, again, I took the more cocoon approach, stayed home, and I had my setup, like my breastfeeding station on the sofa. And then I had kind of one up in another upstairs in my bedroom. And I would just sort of kind of alternate between the two. So it was comfortable. And, and I see pictures of the moms who are like sitting on the the airplane floor, and got the, the kids. And I'm like, how do you do that?
You just do it. We were on a train from Paris to London. This was insane. We did a day trip, and my daughter always just poops, at the worst possible moment. So we're literally about to get there, and the train's there, like they stop and you have like 2 seconds to get off the train until it just keeps going. So I'm like, oh God, like I'm holding her in the carrier, and I'm like, if I don't change her, like this poop is going to be everywhere.
Oh, man.
So I just run into the moving train bathroom and I put her on the floor, and this is like so disgusting. And I just did it. I just did the diaper on the floor, moving train. It got very messy, but I don't know. You just do what you have to do when you're on the go. But as you said, it's fun. I mean, after you accomplish it, you feel you're a superhero.
She probably has a great immune system too. Like I probably just helped her.
So
exactly.
Added benefit. And I got to say, as a twin mom, I mean, yeah, we just get stuff done. I really do think so.
Yeah.
We figure out a way. No, I'm with you. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion about the essentials of traveling with twins. Well, welcome back. Today we are talking about traveling with twins. So not just about like what gadgets you might need, but what type of mindset you really need to be successful. I think one of the things that you guys had mentioned was about routines versus scheduling and trying to keep things sort of feeling the same, for the new twins. So Caroline, I saw on your blog, I know you've got the blog jetwithaset.com. And so I took a peek on that, and I think you did touch on that, the idea of having a routine for your twins.
Yes.
So what does that look like when you're on the go?
Yes, I think with, depending where you're going, whether you're going to be just traveling during a normal time that would be a nap or feeding, or if there's, an extreme time difference, I think usually at home, we have a pretty strict schedule of the twins are always on the same schedule in terms of eating and napping, going outside. But I think you really just have to let go of that a bit when you're on the go. So it really just becomes more of a routine. And I think what that means is, they kind of, as they grow, they definitely know what to expect. So, when they're in their pajamas, like they are signaled, I think, to sleep. So I think keeping up as many of those things as you can, even if when they're going to sleep is a totally different time. And same with feeding them. I think you should keep everything as close to the schedule as possible. But I think if you can just, you just got to be flexible. That's the main thing.
No, that's interesting. You were mentioning about having sort of like the cues of having like pajamas. It's like, okay, when you get your pajamas on, that's bedtime. So did you have any kind of other routine, like feeding them, or I don't know, like, singing songs or something that you created sort of this routine on the go?
Yeah, we tried to always, they always had like a big bottle before bed. So definitely when we first would get on the plane, if we want them to sleep, we would start, just giving them the bottle and kind of calming them down, putting them in the carrier. That kind of makes them sleepy too. And then, in the morning, we do have a morning song that we always sing to them. So I think that like helps them wake up. But yeah, I mean, I'd be totally lying if I said this was, so easy and I've tricked them into being perfect travelers. I think definitely going into it, I mean, be realistic. That's not going to be the case. Definitely the first 2 nights of our trip when we were in Berlin, they were up the entire night. I mean, completely wired to the walls, jumping around because, not only have they just gotten off this long flight, but, it's the middle of the day for them when it's night. So they're totally just thrown off. And I think you just gotta, I don't know, kind of get through it. And then they're pretty quickly able to rebound and get back on a good schedule. But yeah, it's definitely not going to be seamless, I'll say.
And Lindsay, I know, I mean, you were doing the road trips, but it's kind of the same thing of like, okay, you got to create this routine, even though you're in a different place. Like, how did you create, or carry the elements of a routine with you?
Yeah, I mean, we were really particular about naps and sleep times. And we felt like, sleep was like essential to our existence. And in order for us to sleep, clearly they had to be sleeping. So we tried to time things around their naps as best we could. But one issue we did run into is that we were diehard blackout curtain fans. So their rooms at home were completely dark. And if we're traveling in a car, it's bright out. So we didn't get a whole lot of naps from them whenever we were actually traveling. But, you just kind of catch up when you get to where you're going and try to get them back on their routine. But we traveled with the same sound machine that we used at home. And that was one thing that kind of helped with the continuity, and just try to keep bedtime and all of that as closely aligned as we could. We did get some flack from family at times when they were like, well, we're visiting now. Why do they have to take a nap? And, to explain to them, like, our schedule, when you have two babies, like your schedule is like your religion, you have to follow it. So we had to enforce that.
Totally. It is not a joke. We love the sound machine too. We always bring the sound machine, and kind of even on the go can create like a little nap pod almost in the stroller by putting a blanket over, turning the sound machine up, and they kind of just pass out. I think they tricks them a bit.
Oh, I got to say, that's really interesting. I mean, kind of you creating this sort of sensory experience, to say, okay, it's nap time, or it's so with sound, or versus, hey, the feeling of wearing pajamas, or like you said, singing to them. I mean, those are really great practical ideas, because I think sometimes we get stuck on the like, it's, they have to be in a certain place. Here's the crib, and, sleeping a certain way, and have, their blanket. I don't know. We get fixated on stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, we do have there is an exception to all this. There's a stuffed animal, little turtle, that my son is obsessed with. And without that turtle, this whole scheme would fall apart. So we ordered like 10 more of them, because it's just this one turtle, no other stuffed animal. If he has that, he just kind of starts sucking on it and falls asleep. So the day that we lose the turtles, my blog shuts down.
Oh, it's funny. It kind of does remind me. So all three of my girls have the little, they're the dogs. It's the Violet and Scout dogs that, you can program with their names and sing little songs. And so I know when we've gone on trips, we definitely packed the little, the animals. So one of my girls, she's got Violet, and then the other one has Scout. And so that was kind of, like similar to the turtle, like that was their thing that they brought with them. I know I think our first flight for my girls, they were just less than 2. So they were lap children. So we were thankful we didn't have to buy them tickets. We went to Hawaii, so it was, it was a 5-hour flight for them, and they were fine and had the logistics. But yeah, we tried to bring some elements of home with them, so that they felt like they had, when they're in bed, there was, they had their little Violet singing to them. So it was bedtime, even though the sun's out. Yeah. If you strip things down, I mean, were there things you found that they really aren't as important as you thought that they were?
I think everything, like to the point of letting go and not letting the small things, not sweating from the small things. I think as a twin mom, you naturally have already gone through so much stress, whether it be with the breastfeeding or the sleepless nights, sleep training, all of that. So I think your level of like tolerance almost for stress is just so much higher, I think, than other people, because you've gone through so much. So when a little blip comes up when you're traveling, like, oh, you spilled the milk and now you can't do it, or there's no way to warm the bottle, the flight's a little bit delayed, or something like that, I think just having gone through all the other elements of twin parenting, it just doesn't seem as stressful. So
let it go. Yeah, I agree. Did you guys have any sort of like deal with the health issues? I mean, there's always like, just the normal stuff of getting, little colds, or, like upset stomachs, or, I know when the kids go through like teething and they're just cranky, and you want to find like what did you do when you had to deal with those kinds of things?
Yeah, well, like knock on wood, we haven't had anything too bad. Definitely congestion, I think, from flying and just being on the plane for so long. Having like stuffy nose, or maybe their ears are popping a bit. But I don't know, we bring all, the normal like medicines and the nose suction thing, which is like my best friend with us. And yeah, just kind of deal with everything the same as we would at home. And then I think it's always just smart to know, even without kids, just to know kind of like where's the nearest hospital? Is there any like language barrier where you would need to know in an emergency? And just kind of, having all that information in case, God forbid, something more serious were to happen. But, we also like talk to our pediatrician before and kind of like make sure that they're feeling good about this and any questions. So I think, just prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Yeah, we, one time when we were moving from South Carolina up to Connecticut, we had stayed over at a hotel, and 2 of our 4 got a stomach bug in the middle of the night, which is like the worst. And so, it was a horror scene, as we all know. We have 2 babies that are throwing up everywhere. But the hotel staff was really awesome about helping us. They could see like that we needed extra of things. And so they were bringing us all sorts of extra towels and bags and all of that, sheets. So we got through it. We ended up taking them to an urgent care so we could get some Zofran, because we had to get back on the road. We couldn't just kind of wait it out. But the Zofran, so that's anti-nausea medicine, that kind of got them on the mend pretty quickly. And somehow our other set of twins did not end up picking it up by the grace of God. So, but yeah, we had to make the best of it. And thankfully it was quick.
Wow. Oh, that's great to news. Cause that's like your, parents' worst nightmare. It's like, if you got your pediatrician or somebody you can call like at home, is like, ooh, what do you do? So that's great that you had the resources and people sort of helping you and directing you to what's there locally. Even when they're not sick, our twins are always being looked at, and we get all the constant questions, and it's like, okay, sometimes you just feel like you want to leave them alone, but then there are other times where the strangers can be super helpful.
Yeah, I think it's definitely depends, but I felt abroad especially, people are just so much friendlier. Maybe that's because we live in Manhattan where I'm getting yelled at for trying to bring them on like the subway or anything like that. But yeah, people were so friendly, especially in London, like helping me carry the stroller upstairs, because our hotel actually just did not have any accessible entrance. So that was an issue. But yeah, whenever there are strangers just like in the airport or trying to, people get a little bit too close, and not even because of COVID, but just germs. Like you wouldn't try to start touching, a stranger. So why are you trying to touch my babies? I definitely get freaked out by that. But people just want to talk, and oh, they're so cute, which is nice. But I think, there's just like a time and a place for it. And I think sometimes people aren't great at kind of reading the room, and maybe this is not the most appropriate time to be, trying to tell me your whole connection to twins. But yeah, I think for the most part, people definitely feel for you, especially they see you like, oh God, like you're traveling with 2 babies. So they try to be helpful for the most part. I will say though, security, they are never sympathetic in my experience. Every single thing is coming out of the stroller, and I'm carrying them, and I'm going through twice. And the bottles, one time, that was a big mistake. We filled up with water, and they had to, scan each one. It's like, come on. But yeah, for the most part, I think people are being nice.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Like, yeah, the security line, I can imagine you get the evil eye, and people are like, oh, yeah. Like, okay, no, I'm not going in that line. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a lot in our car, as many things we could do. So I would nurse them in the car. And typically speaking, I did not use my tandem pillow when we were like out on the move like that. I would just nurse them individually, and it worked out just fine. But diaper changes and all of that, we would recline the front passenger seat and try to do as much as we could there. The thought of the public bathrooms, I know Caroline's very adventurous. I guess we were a little bit worried about it. So we tried to keep them out of there as much as we could.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I am adventurous, but my mindset is like, you just got to do what you got to do. So whatever works.
I think a potty training, I'll say like with the potty training aspect, I know when my girls were young, I used to carry this little fold up seat. It made it smaller so we could use public, toilets. So essentially we could use the regular, the restrooms, and we were just trying to stay close to, to toilets.
So we had IKEA makes the best, very minimalist potties, like the little potty training potties. There's not a lot of like pieces to it. It's very simple, very easy to clean. So we had one of those in the back of our car always, not just when we were traveling, but always once we started potty training the first set. And we would put a plastic bag inside it, and so that, it was covering the edges. So it was all nice and clean. Once they were done, we tie up the plastic bag, and no more trouble really than a diaper change. And that worked really well for us. You know what the biggest issue was for me on road trips was I did a lot of trips by myself with all 4 of them.
Oh my God.
And for myself to go to the bathroom, that was a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to bring all 4 of them into a rest area. It would have been crazy. So there was definitely some times where I have to admit it, I used that potty on the side of the road because you got to do what you got to do. And I was on like 10, 11-hour trips by myself. So it had to happen.
I love that.
Well, that's great. And that wraps up our show for today. We appreciate you listening to Twin Talks. Don't forget to check out our sister show, Preggy Pals, for expecting parents, and our show, The Boob Group, for moms who breastfeed their babies. Parent Savers, your parenting resource on the go, and Newbies for new moms during the first year. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.